Have you ever imagined that water and just water could completely change the way we help people to recover? For many patients who struggle to move and who face pain every single day, or who have lost hope in their rehabilitation journey, water can be a game changer. Welcome back to قعدة فيزيو, and today we are diving deep, literally deep, in the world of aquatic therapy. We will explore what makes aquatic rehabilitation so unique and how it's helping thousands of patients around the world. And most importantly, we will celebrate the life and work of one of the pioneers in this field, Johan Lambeck, who dedicated over 40 years to transforming rehabilitation through water. So before we dive in our today's topic, I would like to take a moment to welcome our honored guest today, Johan. Welcome to Art Physio.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, of course, and looking forward to your questions and see how I can help AIMS.
Thank you so much. It's truly our pleasure, and we're honored having you today. Your experience and your passion for advancing aquatic therapy have inspired so many therapists around the world, including me. So just to start off, I want to take a moment to ask, who is Johan?
Who is me? So professionally, of course, that's important. I'm a physiotherapist from Netherlands, where I started in physiotherapy way back in 1979. And during my school of physiotherapy, my university, I became a swimming teacher. I already was a swimmer myself, a competitive swimmer when I was a boy. So we had to write a thesis, and I thought I'd write something about swimming for children with CMP, cerebral palsy, trying to find literature, which was not that easy, of course, at that time. I found something about Halliwick. I wrote a thesis, and the physiotherapist, the teacher who was guiding this topic, was head of physiotherapy of the rehab center in my hometown in Netherlands called Nijmegen, a big rehab center. And he said, I have a job for you. So when you're ready, you can come and you become head of the aquatic therapy, and I give you carte blanche in good French. And so to increase quality of aquatic therapy. And that I've done for about 20 years. And at that moment, I already was teaching quite a lot. That became bit by bit. So I couldn't combine anymore. And then I quit. Mm-hmm. That was in the 90s. To start teaching, because it was quite in demand, and that was mostly Europe, and of course in my home country, Netherlands. In the meantime, I met Macmillan, and I think we will talk more about him later, who invited me also to teach in Switzerland. And when Macmillan died in 1994, people asked me to teach his courses, and that gradually grew and grew and grew. Apart from aquatic therapy, I have done many other things in physiotherapy, neurological physiotherapy, sports physiotherapy, and whatever. And that resulted, and also research physiotherapy, and that resulted in a job at the university in Belgium, in Leuven, at rehabilitation sciences and movement sciences for about 10 years. Wow. We did all kinds of Erasmus projects in research. Yeah, so I'm this combination of a clinician, where also a scientific career. And so basically my mission then is to explain what is out there, you call external evidence, to clinicians based on the literature, my expertise that I gained in my clinical work and in teaching courses and so on, in order to enhance quality of aquatic therapy, to our opinion. When I say our opinion, then I talk about the association that I started together with a colleague in Switzerland named Urs Gamper. It's called IATF, where we said, well, we both have our expertise in aquatic therapy methods, about which we will talk later. So we educate, and of course, at some moment, we won't educate anymore. Time to retire at some moment for everybody. So we are going to educate also young colleagues. And that is something that we do since 2005, and which means that at this moment, we have a group of about 30 people, mostly physiotherapists, and most of them are in education, have been educated already, to continue the work. So that's a bit about me. Yeah, I write, I wrote books, I've been co-author of scientific articles, and whatever you so do in a professional life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's all. Yeah, that's great. That's great. One of the reasons I'm so thrilled and curious about this episode today, that my knowledge about aquatic therapy is like this amount. I have never used aquatic therapy before or treated any patient before, so I'm gonna be listening for the first time. Like yes. Our listeners today.
Well, it happens in water.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's the only information that I have. So to start off, what is aquatic therapy and what makes a difference than the traditional ways of therapy?
Yeah. Well, first the words. Basically, there are two words. Aquatic therapy and hydrotherapy. And the place where we teach in Haven Hospital, you can see both. And aqua is Latin and hydros is Greek, and both mean water.
Okay.
So it's therapy with water, but actually we narrow this down to therapy in water. So in English-speaking countries, it's more hydrotherapy, and in American-speaking countries, more aquatic therapy there. But bit by bit, the word aquatic therapy became a bit more important, hydrotherapy. So that about terminology. And then, well, of course, when you move in water or you are in water, you have to deal with the constraints and the elements or the characteristics of the environment. And so you have to first look, what is the difference then between air and land on one hand and water on the other hand. And then it all starts with fluid mechanics. So you have to compare fluid mechanics with dry land mechanics. And one of the big things, of course, is that water is moving. Yeah, there are no fixed points. You cannot walk on water. As Macmillan used to say, it happens once in life, but that's a long time ago.
Yes.
Written in a certain book.
Yes.
Then, which means that balancing is quite different when you are in water than on land, because you don't have those fixed points so easily then. Water, of course, has another kind of pressure increase than air, which means that pressure on the body when you are in water has all kinds of extra effects as opposed to the pressure that we have here, the air pressure. And that's quite important, actually. And perhaps we talk later then. And of course, when you move through water, it's more difficult. Water is more heavy than air. I always say you cannot run the 100 meters in 10 seconds in water. So it is a way also to work with muscles. Think of strengthening, as everybody always says. Then on land, and another difference is that water has waves.
Okay.
Air doesn't have a wave. A wave has lots of energy, like a tsunami, for instance. So when you move and you make waves, and they will hit your body with all kinds of effects on your balance. So balance or posture control is a very important topic. When you are in water, both physiologically and also, of course, applicable to patients that do have problems with their posture and all the elements that belong to that.
Okay. All right. So from that point, what are the specialties or patients who are eligible to be treated using aquatic therapy?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a logic question, of course. By now, because aquatic therapy has become very popular in all the 45 years that I'm doing
You
that.
started off.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. I wasn't the first one, of course.
Yeah.
So many people do it. And that means that in order to have patients, that physiotherapists throw almost every patient into the pool. But logically, the patients that will gain most from aquatic therapy are those ones that have problems with gravity. Because the property that I didn't mention, that's the famous one is Archimedes, buoyancy, counteracts gravity. So it helps you to maintain your upright position. And there are many patients that do have this gravity problem. So when you go through pathologies and age, and when you think about children, there are children that have developmental problems and are not able very well to sit upright, to stay upright, etc. And you can do things in the pool then that are more difficult on land. Well, that actually also counts for adults. And when I stay in that field of neurology, then you can think of patients with stroke, with Parkinson, multiple sclerosis, and so where especially, of course, the chance of falling, is quite high then. And when in the pool, in fact, by definition, you cannot fall. It is a very good environment.
You can sink though.
But everybody will float at some moment.
Yeah.
And I just told today it can take 3 days or 3 weeks, but finally everybody will float.
Yeah.
No. But the definition of falling is that the center of gravity goes down, and when you lose your balance in the pool, normally you start floating, so the center of gravity comes up. So that's the physical explanation. Then. And if you lose balance in the pool, it goes slower than on land.
That's true.
So you have time to react. And literature, and meanwhile, there is lots of literature. I have a database of about 5,000 articles about aquatic therapy and all kinds of levels of evidence and quality, etc. And many of these articles are about standing and walking. So gait, standing, and balance, which is related to fall prevention, are very positive in comparison to what you do on land. So statistically, it is a very good environment to work on topics that are related to trying to stay upright in a gravity field where you have problems then. I mentioned the resistance of water. We call this turbulence. So that's also a way to strengthen muscles there. And this can be done in a way where even people that are very, very weak say, hey, here I can move, and on land I cannot move. And when you move very fast through water, you have an enormous resistance. So you can also apply that even in, let's say, sports physiotherapy. Okay. So it's a very wide spectrum in which you can use aquatic therapy.
Okay, that's great. So talking about the researches, from what you mentioned in the specialties or even in the diseases itself, which one of those or group of those are highly supported by researchers and which are still developing?
That is kind of obvious, because the groups that are most supported because of the amount or the amount of literature, the number of publications, are the patients with musculoskeletal problems. Okay. And so then you talk about osteoarthritis of hips and knees and low back pain, because we have many all around the world. And there is hardly any support for rare diseases.
Okay.
Because a rare disease is a rare disease, and that means there are not so many, and perhaps then 10% of so goes into the pool, and then you need somebody who wants to write about it, do some research, so you don't have so much. But for instance, when you look at, let's take children, who are severely disabled in terms of, let's say, spasticity, so CP, who have a big problem with cognition, have big sensory problems, maybe blind and deaf, so really, really, really handicapped. They relatively can do a lot in the pool. They are very restricted on land, and water, of course, also, but not that restricted. So absolutely not so much, but relatively a lot. But nobody writes about this because it's a very complex disease, and with everybody it's different then. So the biggest number of articles is in the, as we say, musculoskeletal area, but there's also very good evidence in neurology, and I'm already mentioned the big diseases, and in those three, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson, and stroke, most articles are about stroke. And then when you put them together, and when you compare what has been done in water in all those articles, in comparison what has been done in land actively, then it is always better to go into the pool where you talk about walking and standing. And that doesn't mean that you could only do this, because finally what you learn as a kind of priming activity in the pool has to be used, practiced in, let's say, a room like this. You have to maneuver around the table, etc. And that is something that you don't learn in the pool.
So from that point, is it done separately as an aquatic therapy, the only method of treatment, or it is done in a conjunction with another therapy, the traditional one?
That depends on where you work. My background is rehabilitation, and you work also always in a team. So a patient, let's take the stroke patient again, suffers from a stroke, goes to an acute hospital, to stabilize whatever happened in the head, etc. At some moment, some doctor decides, patient can go out of ICU, for instance, and can go to a rehab center, and there the whole team starts working. There's a speech therapist, occupational therapist, physiotherapist, and within physiotherapy mostly we say also aquatic therapy. So it's always something parallel then in such a team. But when you have a private practice, for instance, and that depends on the country if people have this, and maybe also a pool, then it can be a standalone therapy.
Okay, so it goes both ways. Let's dive deeper a little bit, talking about the techniques, because I hear so many things that I have no clue with, like Ragaz, Halliwick, water-specific therapy, all those things, Chi. So what is those techniques about?
Okay. Well, let's start with compliment you about your pronunciation of Ragaz.
Is that good or bad?
No, good. Because actually it's from a village in Switzerland, and that's called Bad Ragaz. That's a German pronunciation. But I still know that I came to the United States for the first time in 1997, but he said, well, this is Bad Ragaz. And I say, yes, it's really not good.
I told myself it's impossible to be Bad Ragaz. It should be Bad Ragaz.
So there's a Bad Ragaz and a good Ragaz. So the Ragaz Ring Method, to start with, is a method, and physiotherapists will know it's based on PNF. That stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. I'm not going to explain this. But actually you try to activate muscles in myofascial chains that are a bit constructed. Practically, patients are in flotation aids lying on their back, and then there are patterns of one arm, two arms we don't use so much, one leg, two legs, the trunk, etc. As I said, to facilitate activity of all kinds of muscles then, which of course means that you have to know how to use it. That is based on your assessment on land, always there. But that's it. And in this facilitation, you have all kinds of techniques. And the nice thing is that when the patient is in water, you manually guide the movements, and with that manual guidance, you can be very precise and getting even like a flicker of muscle activities with a movement that you can never have on land because of the weight of the body there. It's really a very nice technique. It's difficult to do. That's why not so many people do it.
Okay.
And that's why also you don't see it back in research so much.
Mm-hmm.
At least myself, I'm reviewer of all kinds of journals. And so they sent me then also manuscript about Ragaz, and mostly have to say, no, not good, do again. I'm quite strict.
Uh-huh.
Then we have another one. So let's take I Chi. Because about Halliwick work specific therapy, I will talk a bit more.
Uh-huh.
I Chi was developed in the 90s by somebody from Japan called Jun Kono. He deceased a few years ago. And he developed this based on stretching of meridians. And it should be a starting point of what they call Watsu Shiatsu, and that is passive movement through water. So you have a therapist that moves the patient through the water. Patient doesn't do anything. You move joints, and in moving joints, you also stretch meridians.
Okay.
And this Jun Kono said, I also want to do this, but I start with a patient who is standing in the pool and makes movement where the same meridians are stretched. Well, he figured out how to do this. He presented this in 1997 in the United States in the same conference where they had bad Ragaz there. And I saw a relation with what I already did in Europe, with Halliwick and water-specific therapy. So we invited them to come to our course in Switzerland at some moments, and he educated my wife and Urs Gamper, my colleague, and myself then. So you make movements where you stretch meridians, but people don't know anything about meridians. No problem, because you also move fascia or connective tissue.
Okay.
And you constantly move your center of gravity, so it's also a balance act. Research started partly with me. By now there are, I think, 30 articles, and I've been co-author of a couple of them.
Okay.
And then we're in various patient groups, like fibromyalgia, like Parkinson and stroke once again. We found that actually the results are very good, even compared to something that looks like I Chi, that is Tai Chi on land. They often compare this. So it's a very nice activity, mostly in groups. So the best way is to compare it with Tai Chi when you don't know exactly what it is then. So I looked at this with my eyes of Halliwick and water-specific therapy, and I go to the next one then.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my thesis, and I found that Halliwick could be a good idea to work with for children with CP in the pool. I started working, and my boss said, would you like to do a course? I said, yes, of course. And he said, try to find. So I found the founder, that's James Macmillan, in 1980 in Switzerland. Although he was raised in London or born in Canada. Then engineered in fluid mechanics. So he knew a lot about fluid mechanics, and meanwhile I too, because I inherited his books.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just advise you, don't read them, it's just too difficult. All those formulas. And so we invited him to come to the Netherlands, and I learned Halliwick. And Halliwick basically is a swimming method, with a structure that's called a 10-point program that is worldwide known. Meanwhile, and those 10 points, they start with adjustment to water, as every swimming method, and then bit by bit go to a basic swimming stroke. But the core business of Halliwick are rotations in all kinds of directions. We live in a 3D world, and so you have rotations forward, backward, left, right, and so on. And that means that the trunk is very active. So trunk control or core stability is very important in Halliwick, because you need it for swimming. When the trunk is not stable, you can never make a good swimming stroke.
Okay.
Well, Macmillan developed this in England, and then since 1950, more or less. And in 1963, he was asked to come to Switzerland, to the village of Bad Ragaz.
Okay.
The world is small. Then,
Yes.
where he was teaching for therapists working with adults who say, well, this Halliwick that you bring from England is for children with all kinds of English children's songs, Ring a Ring of Roses and so on. And that's something we don't do with adults in Switzerland. So the idea was, can we make this method physiotherapeutic?
Okay.
Then? And that became water-specific therapy.
Oh, okay.
So nowadays we define Halliwick as motor learning in the pool that you are going to use in the pool. That means swimming. And we define water-specific therapy as motor learning in the pool that you're going to use on land.
Okay.
So that's the kind of paradigm difference. I mean, swimming is horizontal and on land mostly vertical. Is it? Yeah. So where we use the same ideas, and also in the course that we are teaching now, we follow the 10-point program then, and from every point, we tell our participants, okay, when we do this movement from the 10 points, how can we translate this into therapeutic goals that we have in physiotherapy for a certain patient population?
Okay, that's great. I do see globally aquatic therapy has grown a lot in the past few decades.
Yeah.
I kind of starting noticing that there is some countries have those big aquatic centers. Some countries still, figuring their way towards that. Talking about Egypt and the Middle East, how do you see the aquatic therapy is adopted here in the area?
Yeah. So from my own perspective, from my own history also, first, of course, I see it's quite new. Compared to, for instance, European countries. United States is also an example. Already in the 1930s, they started with aquatic therapy for polio patients and so on. So you talk about maybe 10, 15 years in general. So then when it began to grow, I myself, for the first time, went to the Middle East. I have to think where it was. I think it was to Jeddah.
Okay, that's Saudi Arabia? Okay.
I think something like 10 years ago. And, so then it began to come. Although, of course, there must have been places where already they did aquatic therapy, especially places that were related to English healthcare. These physiotherapists and always want to go into a pool. And that developed quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I see in countries that I know of, and apart from Egypt, I also go to the Emirates. I've been in Saudi Arabia, partly with Saddam. Then also, so I see first of all beautiful pools, and actually that is a bit strange because in most cases, in most countries that I've seen, physiotherapists get interested. With their patients, they go into water, whatever. I know physiotherapists that went into the sea, into ponds, into rivers, public pools, and so on. Finally, some institution says we should build an aquatic therapy pool. And here it's a bit different, actually. They say, when we build this beautiful hospital and we have money enough, we put a pool and then we see later.
Yes.
So that the interest is quickly is coming, and I'm sure we're going to talk a bit more about Egypt.
Yeah, because I'm gonna get a lot of questions talking about the opportunities and the future, and assuming that our listeners are either still students or new grads or even, expert physical therapists. What do I need to be a specialist in aquatic therapy?
A pool.
Just a pool. And then?
That's a good start, I think, yes.
And then what?
And then no fear of going into water. Imagine that you as a therapist are afraid of water and you tell your patient, come into the water.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny.
Yeah, there's a so kind of swimmer.
Yeah.
Would be good. So then something that you cannot change, and that is a good skin.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I have the skin of an elephant.
Which is good for...
That means as I'm a kind of resistant against any kind of chlorine or whatever chemicals they have in the pool. And there are people that don't have this. So that's kind of natural selection. Nobody says it, but it's like this. And of course, you have to have, let's say, the chromosomes of I like water. There are therapists that say never. I never go into the pool, and there are people that say, okay, the pool is my life. So these are the kind of prerequisites. And then, of course, you need to develop your skills. That is quite clear. And then going back to pools, that is obvious. At the same time, many pools are built wrongly.
Yeah, that takes me to a very important question. What are the specifications of a pool?
Well, it's actually the most important thing is choosing the good depth.
Okay.
In rehabilitation, most of the therapy outcomes and goals are about walking and standing. And of course, OTs will say, don't forget the arms and the hands.
Yeah.
But patients want to walk and to stand and to use hands again. Now, using hands again, no, the pool is not the first place then. So walking and standing. And also the most literature on land is about walking and standing, and in water as well.
Okay.
So obviously that's important. Well, then you have to have a depth in which you can walk. Now, when you know that average population, elderly population maybe is 1 meter, 1.70 or so, then you shouldn't have a pool of 160.
Okay.
You cannot walk anymore.
Yeah.
So you need to have a bit of gravity to have your feet on the floor.
Okay.
But when you work with children, where walking is also important, because parents always ask, do you think my child will be able to stand and walk?
Mm-hmm.
Then of course you need another depth. So in general, one could say you need a pool of about chest height. And I always say, if you have a pool where you only treat the Egyptian basketball team,
they're tall.
It should be higher.
Yeah.
So you have this compromise always, because you have to choose which population I'm working for, because you cannot have every depth, because then you would have a pool that is way too big.
Yes.
And that means way too costly.
Yes.
Also. So depth is a very important topic. And otherwise you can make it as fancy as you want, but it's not so important.
Okay.
And logically, when you work with a population that is disabled in terms of being in a wheelchair, you need a hoist and so to get people in and out of the pool to help them.
Interesting talking about the cost, because one of the challenges that I do see for aquatic therapy is the necessity of having a pool, which is the first thing you named to qualify for practicing. So what would you advise new grads regarding overcoming this cost?
You have to specify your question.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure you getting a question like aquatic therapy is very good, but it's expensive to start a clinic that is using aquatic therapy. How do you see the new grads with limited resources or financial are overcoming this? Can they group together? Can they use somewhere else or stuff like that?
Logically then. So then I go back to our own experiences in Netherlands, my own experiences also. When I started working in this rehab center, we had a small pool that was built in 1932 or something like this. And it was the first rehab pool in Netherlands, as they told. And we built a new one in the 80s. Well, our services are between 8 and 5. That's not like here.
We're night people in Egypt.
Yeah. But that meant, that we had all those hours extra, and we could rent the pool out.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have all these people that say we are special, because we are the Association of Rheumatic Patients, and I have a private physiotherapy practice. Can I rent you a pool? I want to do baby swimming and all these things. And that makes money also. Because in Netherlands, there is no extra budget for aquatic therapy within the physiotherapy budget. Then in Switzerland there is, so that's different in every country in Europe. Yeah. We cannot say how is it in Europe. It depends on the country.
Yeah.
But yes, a pool costs money. And so what many people do, then say, well, we also have group therapy.
Okay.
Individual and group therapy. And there you have to have a good mix, because you can treat many patients in groups as well. Although there are also countries where patient says, no, I pay my own physiotherapist. I don't go into a group. And that's actually a shame or a pity, a shame. Huh? Because patients can learn many things from each other. That's quite important. So that's the way to make it rentable, of course. Another thing is, don't make the water temperature too high.
What difference that's going to make?
Money.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
You may know, we
yeah.
had a recent energy crisis with Ukraine.
Yeah.
And Russia. And so temperatures went low. But actually, when you look at guidelines of physiotherapy, then all the guidelines, you see that the intensity of movement is increasing. So also the ones for musculoskeletal, orthopedic things, let's say osteoarthritis of your knee, they say what is important for the knee is strengthening, is endurance training.
That's true.
Actually for the whole body. That's a metabolic background of treatment. And so patients should become tired. You should also feel something happens in this heart. And that means that the water temperature doesn't have to be so high. So when you have water temperature of 35 degrees, it's 36 degrees. I mean, I like it.
Yeah, but it's costly. You're going to be able to,
you cannot work out.
Yeah.
And many physiotherapists will say, a workout that is not for us. But in guidelines of physiotherapy, you see this occur more and more and more.
Yeah.
So water temperature doesn't have to be as high as in many cases they do.
Okay.
So that's a change of mind of physios.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. I like that. Let's say now I'm interested to start my career in aquatic therapy. So how do I start off? Do reading books enough, or listening to watching YouTube videos?
No.
Okay.
When we talk about Egypt and the Middle East, come to AIMS.
Okay. I like that answer so much. And Ahmed is going to like it also.
No. This was serious, but what is also serious is that watching YouTube videos, no, I wouldn't advise.
Okay.
If you want to see bad ragaz, then look YouTube. Now you see many mistakes. And people say, well, it's not so important. But AIMS is very good in musculoskeletal therapy, for instance. So when I want to manipulate L4, I shouldn't manipulate L5. And when I want to do a good ragaz pattern, I should have my hands in the proper places, not at the wrong places. And you don't learn this online. You don't learn this reading. You have to be in the pool. You have to do it. You have to be corrected by somebody who knows how it is. And that also counts for the other methods.
Okay.
Learning by doing. That's physiotherapy, of course.
Yeah.
So you have to come to a course where there is practice then. And of course you can complete this, as we also do with homework, with websites, with webinars and so on.
As a side.
These are the extras.
Yes.
Although, of course, look, information about, let's say, the physiology of immersion, of fluid mechanics, that can be done online.
Okay.
For this, you don't have to sit. But the experience is in many countries and also in myself that therapists are busy with 1, 2, or 3 jobs, etc.
That's true.
They have a a course at Friday, and at Thursday evening they think, okay, where do you have to be, etc. So they don't prepare. So we try this and we stop there and say, it's also good to say, forget the world, now you're 5 days in this course.
Yeah.
And then.
Okay. Before I close, I just want to take a moment to talk about the ITAF. What's its mission, role, and how do you see the ITAF is participating in advancing aquatic therapy across the world?
Yeah. So when I thought globally and then zoom in, to Egypt, you have two lines of thinking actually, and one line is that you say we want to organize something around aquatic therapy where professionals meet each other from different professions who work in aquatic therapy, like occupational therapists, sports therapists, physiotherapists. And you could say, no, we want to have organizations where you only have physiotherapists because we understand each other, and one could say. My own background is rehab, so that's more team-like, and also ITF is this. But then, from a point of organization, it's mostly easier to say we have our physiotherapy group, and we work with physios. And that is something that you see in many countries already for many years. And so you have an English Physiotherapy Association in aquatic therapy, and there's one in South Africa, there's one in the United States and Australia and Portugal, and so there are many countries that have this. So it's quite logic, because then from the body of knowledge of physiotherapy, you can go to aquatic therapy, because those OTs, they have another kind of language and thinking then basically. So in that respect, it's good, that there is this association also in Egypt, because then you have the possibility, and surely now it's recognized by the syndicate. Then you have the opportunity to say, we are the, let's say, even accrediting body in the future, perhaps, who are supposed to have the knowledge about organizing aquatic therapy. Now, that of course means that now in the building up phase, I have to try to find people that want to work in the association, and not only passive recipients of information, but say, my strength is to write something about aquatic therapy for a patient association. My strength is ideas about constructing a pool. So that is the good thing of the association, that you bring people together who are engaged in aquatic therapy, and hopefully will help to increase the quality and quantity of aquatic therapy. And then there are many sub goals there, of which I mentioned two, and there are many then also, because mostly people say we want to do research, and logically this is important, but more important in my opinion is we want to translate research for the clinical physiotherapist, or we want to teach the clinical physiotherapist how to interpret an article, and not in terms of statistics are not good, but in terms of what they say, does it make sense? So those kinds of things. And to increase that quality, by the way, then IATF, our organization, is organizing also conferences, international conferences every 2 years, more or less. So last year we were in England, and next year we'll be in Canada. A few years ago we were in Las Vegas. And then also where we gather people from all over the world, and say, okay, you are an expert on this, that, or the other. Explain what you have done for participants. We build this international community. We let people network. I mean,
that's great.
We don't always have to be a part of it. Life continues and so on. And that's
long life.
And that's an important topic. That to build the strength, because aquatic therapy works. So when you go to literature, then in many cases you see something like this. So when you look at a controlled trial, So you have those 2 groups or 3 groups, but let's say 2 groups, and one group does something in water, one group does something on land. And then most literature is, we have a measurement before we start. We have a measurement afterwards, and maybe you have a follow-up. So the time points are the same, let's say 6 weeks. So what you often see, especially when you talk about balance in posture and gait, is that after those 6 weeks, that the measurements on the instrument that you use are better than on land. So you would like to know, and that doesn't happen, when in water do you reach the effect that you have on land? So when on land that would be in 6 weeks, in water would it be in 4 weeks, or 3 weeks, or 5 weeks? And then you can talk about cost effectiveness. So that's a very important topic for every association, including the people here in Egypt, because then you can say, look, on land you need all the time, and in water, you need less time. The pool is more expensive, but patients are better. So you have better turnover. And then hopefully also insurance companies and patients privately will say, I choose aquatic therapy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lastly, but not least, I'm sure you've met through your courses here in Egypt so many learners, students, and graduates. What advices would you give them in general, or to advance in aquatic therapy?
Now, the best way to advance is don't work alone. Work with others, and then I come back to IATA, the association, and then so get together. Try to also be a bit humble, and that is when you learn something new, then just apply it for yourself, with colleagues, in terms of, can you have a look what I'm doing? Is this okay? And what are your ideas? And so on. Instead of actually say, now I also know it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I can say that I'm humble, but for instance, when I learned from Macmillan, from Halliwick, I've been 30 courses with him.
Wow.
And finally he died. No, okay. So people said after 10 courses, you can do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, I want to learn from this man. No hurry, etc. So that's important because, logically, when there is something new, then people see a chance, for their ego or for their purse, etc. So that is an important topic. And then, of course, also be critical in sense that not every method might be important for you. So with what kind of population do you work? And of course, there are people that collect certificate after certificate after certificate after certificate, and that is good for whatever organization, then, or for me. But at the same but at the same time,
and for the shelf also.
Yes, indeed, But at the same time, when you work with children, you don't have to do Ragaz. So I'm quite honest there. That would be a loss of time and a loss of money. Then, knowing that physios have a limited budget, so think a bit then, and then focus on what is really important.
Still waiting for a general advice from your experience in life.
The advice is go into the pool. And the advice is don't restrict your patients. I'll ask your patient, what do you like? Let them make little mistakes. You make little mistakes at physiotherapists. This is how you learn. Patients don't have written on their head, this is good for me or that is good for me. So you learn by trial and error. So be a bit brave. And in that sense is water different from land, because if I move with somebody who has a balance problem on land, I have to be close. if somebody falls, you will be sued. Maybe not in Egypt, but in your other country, yes.
In US, yes.
Yes, indeed. In water, I can have distance. When somebody loses balance, it goes slowly, and I can always say, okay, now I really have to help them. So distance means autonomy, and autonomy is important for us. And what people say. And actually, that was said by those children way back in 1950 in the Halliwick school there in London, where they had a diary and where children would say or ask to write down, today I walked alone to the other side of the pool. Today I stood all by myself. And so these are important things. And so that's the advice to physiotherapists. And then I quote Macmillan. I said, forget everything what you know about swimming. Reset.
Yes.
And go with an open mind into the pool. And don't do the things that you also do on land.
I always look up to people with successful stories. But what makes you stand out for me, that I really like people who start something from scratch and have the persistency and consistency and passion to develop it and see it getting bigger and bigger every day. Johan, it was a really pleasure having you today with us in Added Physio, and we wish to see you many more in Egypt.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to have this interview, and it's also a pleasure to be in Egypt.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. Yeah, when I'm back in the place where I have to be, that means surviving traffic.
That's
but
true.
I can trust Mohammed Saddam very well. No, the hassle of Egypt and other things. It makes you a very nice country.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
We wish you a pleasant stay in Egypt. My dear colleagues, our episodes for today has come to an end. We hope what you guys heard and listened to inspires you to advance in aquatic therapy. So I'm signing off. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum.